It's Mr. Mayfield gets to start.
I work a lot with private nonprofits, also in my business as a consultant throughout the state. And there are a major issue with nonprofits. They are not able to turn around and raise the funding that they used to before. And in order to do that, they have to turn around and become a little more intense in working with the public and having a more awareness how they need to raise it, as well as looking for other funds outside. What we need to do to enhance that with the board of supervisors is to turn around and look at the different federal grants and other grant agencies that turn around, like for the Boys and Girls Club, that we could turn around and ask for their assistance to help it here, as well as also come up with other ways to turn around and generate programs to where they can put out fundraisers and then make it happen. That's what I would do.
Thank you. Ms. Clifton.
We are in, everyone knows, a real crisis in the state with our budget, so it's hard to make a statement such as, I will fund nonprofits. But when it comes to providing essential services that we depend on in this community, such as programs for our children, if we're worried about gang activities, these types of things do take a priority. Otherwise, we will just be funding it later in criminal justice. So where needed, the board should work with the nonprofits to set up, the board could help fund some of these programs, such as the Boys and Girls Club, because they are essential, and what I'm hearing from my constituents going, hopefully if I get elected, my constituents, is that we need things for our young people, and we need to look out for what the nonprofits do is provide for these safety nets, and these are very important programs. So with crucial funding, they should receive some of that.
Mr. Mohair.
I like to cite examples. In today's Daily Journal on the front page, it has Coast Theater Company fighting for its life. It's not uncommon. Nonprofits and these kind of groups are all suffering. They're suffering from the lack of an economic engine in this valley. And I have to go back to the Mendocino Crossings again. It's going to generate almost $2 million in sales tax. It'll generate another $2 million for other county funds, and it'll generate about $74 million over the next 40 years for the county revenue sources, and about $20 million of that going towards affordable housing. I don't know what else we can do. This is probably the best opportunity we have to stop people from going to Santa Rosa and spending their money down there and keeping it in this valley. The average citizen that goes down there to try to get enough stuff all at once so they can feed their family for a month, spend about $1,000 a year on gasoline. That money could be much better spent here in this community, and they'd have the time to stay here and be involved in their community.
Thank you. Mr. McCowan.
Well, I will disagree that the DDR project represents economic development. We don't need a lot of low-wage service jobs. We need real economic development. And again, we will achieve that by focusing on existing local and startup businesses that will generate jobs, that will pay a living wage, that will create a healthy local economy so that people can better support worthy endeavors like the Boys and Girls Club. I'm also on the board of directors of the Ukiah Valley Cultural and Recreation Center, and we're trying to raise the funds to complete the gymnasium. The Boys and Girls Club is the anchor tenant down there, and so completing that gym would better enable them to put on programs that would help raise funds. And the county does have many contracts with local nonprofits, and I think that should certainly be maintained.
Thank you. Okay. How will you achieve city and county cooperation? And there's a sort of a counter question. Do you believe the 2nd District Supervisor should support county action that is opposed by the city? Ms. Clifton.
It is very important that the city and county work together. This Ukiah Valley Area Plan has a big hole in the middle of it, and that was change area 4 on the map, which was the city of Ukiah. When it comes to our planning for this valley and how we want to develop the character, this is the county seat, and it shouldn't be planned around the fringes based on a war of tax revenue for sales tax. I want to see the county work with the city on their redevelopment plans within the city. And I had, at the previous forum, discussed not being for a tax sharing agreement, because if the city's not competing with the county for sales tax, would there be a need? And when the audience voted back 95% wanting it, I changed my mind and I'm open to that. So I think that through tax sharing agreements and through planning and how we have things zoned where we want uses, they should cooperate, especially with water as well. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Mohair.
I think there ought to be city and county cooperation, and for too long, each board has been polarized. Either you have a 3-vote on the city council and a 3-vote opposite that at the board of supervisors. So it's difficult to have that cooperation. It could happen at the next election where you'd have 3 votes on the city council and 3 votes on the board of supervisors. We could actually get a tax sharing agreement approved and passed through, and then we could stop fighting over the fiscalization of land. Regardless, I still think that the Masonite site is a great opportunity to plan for a planned development. It's right off the freeway. It's got a lot of good reasons why that project can go there. The city of Ukiah has rezoned their industrial park over the last 25 years into a retail shopping center. Why? Because we couldn't bring in good, clean paying, or high paying, clean jobs for the last 25 years. And it's just bizarre to me now that they think that somehow we're going to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden we're going to bring in a bunch of high paying, clean jobs.
Thank you. Mr. McCowan.
A tax sharing agreement is the key to city-county cooperation. Without it, you're not going to get very far. Since November of 2006, the City Council has been unanimous in support of a tax sharing agreement, but it doesn't seem to get very far at the board level, despite the fact that a tentative agreement was negotiated with 2 members of the board acting as a committee. It's never gone beyond that. It seems to be stuck in limbo at the board. That will be one of my top priorities should I get elected. As a supervisor, I will have a countywide perspective, but I will effectively represent the interests of the citizens of the 2nd District. I don't see a conflict there. And to have the board take my issues seriously, I have to be willing to work on their issues as well. And that's where you build cooperation among your fellow supervisors to actually resolve issues and move forward.
Would you repeat the question?
How will you achieve city and county cooperation, and do you believe the 2nd District Supervisor should support county action that is opposed by the city?
Well, the first part of the question is that, yes, we need to work and cooperate with the city and the county. They both need to be working as a united force to turn around and accomplish the goals that are going to come about with the economy today, especially in the situation that we are. We need to be able to work real close to them and also listen to the constituents inside of the Ukiah city limits. The city council is not necessarily the way the constituents think inside of the city limits. So you have to listen to both. You have to be fair across the board with both and making a decision and then coming up with the right decision that takes care of all.
Good, okay. Let's change the subject here. What is your position on Measure B? If B is not the answer, what is? It's Mr. Mohair needs to start on that one.
My position on Measure B is currently we need to nip it in the bud. I'm voting yes on Measure B. I've seen what it's done to the community. I've seen what it's done to the workforce and our youth. I think the earlier candidates mentioned that, you know, we have places of employment here in town who can't hire people because they can't pass a drug test. And we have kids who won't come to work. I'm a local employer. I've tried to hire people for the last 3 years, and it gets progressively worse where nobody really wants to work for a living anymore. And we had somebody ask me at another forum, said, why don't you just pay them what the marijuana people pay their employees? It just doesn't work that way when you're paying